The void near the edge of the Sol system was never truly empty. It was a place of whispers and gravity tides, where distant stars felt colder and the dark was a physical thing. On the bridge of the human diplomatic ship Wayfarer, Captain Lee Haniel watched the main view screen with a calm she did not feel. A fleet of alien vessels, sleek and sharp as obsidian knives, had just finished their translation from faster-than-light travel. They hung there, arranged in a perfect, menacing crescent against the backdrop of Neptune's pale blue disk. Lieutenant Kim Min stood at the tactical station behind her. He kept his voice low. 37 warships confirmed, Captain. All from the Valair and Cathar empires. Full combat readiness. Shields are up. Weapons are hot. They're not here for tea. Haniel allowed herself a small, dry smile. Min was young, brilliant, and had a talent for stating the terrifyingly obvious in a way that almost sounded funny. Almost. Open-Ichero. Lieutenant. Standard greeting protocol. The screen flickered, and the face of a Valair admiral appeared. His skin was a deep amethyst hue, his eyes large and solid black, set in a hairless, bony skull. He wore a uniform of metallic mesh that seemed to absorb the light from the Wayfarer's bridge. He did not introduce himself. His voice was a synthesized, emotionless baritone that filled the quiet room. Human vessel. I am Admiral Kavosh of the Galactic Concordance First Pacification Fleet. You have been summoned to receive our judgment. Haniel inclined her head slightly. Admiral, I am Captain Lee Haniel of the United Earthship Wayfarer. We welcome you to our space. How may we assist the Concordance? Your false courtesy is noted and irrelevant, Kavosh stated. The Concordance has observed your species' expansion for 5 of your centuries. Your progress is adequate, but it is unguided, chaotic. You pose a latent risk to the stability of the galactic order. On the screen, a schematic of the Sol system appeared, with Earth glowing brightly at its center. Your civilization is hereby offered integration into the Concordance hegemony. You will surrender all military assets. You will submit all technological research for review and standardization. Your system governance will be restructured under Concordance oversight. Your species will find purpose and order within our grand design. The silence on the Wayfarer as bridge was so complete Haniel could hear the soft hum of the life support systems. Every crew member, from the helm officer to the comm specialist, was frozen, waiting for her response. She had known this moment could come. Every captain of the border fleet had trained for it. But knowing and experiencing were two very different things. That is a significant set of terms. Admiral, Haniel said, her voice even. Integration is one matter. The surrender of sovereignty is quite another. My government would require time to consider such a proposal. Kavash's head tilted a fraction, a gesture of alien impatience. You misunderstand. This is not a proposal. It is a directive. The time for your consideration has passed. The Concordance has deliberated. This is its will. Min's fingers danced over his console, pulling up data. He mouthed a word to Haniel. Deadline. What is your timetable? Haniel asked. You have 72 of your hours, Kavosh replied. At the end of that period, one of two things will happen. You will broadcast your unconditional surrender on all bands, and a provisional governor will arrive to begin the transition. Or, this fleet will cross the orbit of your planet Neptune and commence the systematic pacification of your homeworld and all colonies. Resistance, he added, the synthetic voice dropping even colder, will be met with proportional and overwhelming force. There will be no further communication until your decision is broadcast. Do not attempt to leave this system. The transmission cut off. The view screen returned to the image of the silent, terrifying fleet. The bridge crew let out a collective, shaky breath. The helm officer, A woman named Gia turned in her seat, her face pale. Captain, proportional and overwhelming force. That's concordance speak for glassing the planet. I know, Gia, Haniel said softly. She rose from her command chair, feeling the weight of every eye upon her. Lieutenant Min, you have the bridge. Maintain position. Do not power weapons. Do not raise shields beyond meteor deflection levels. I want to look harmless. I am going to my ready room to send a report. Min nodded, his usual humor gone, replaced by a hard, focused determination. Aye, Captain. Looking harmless. In the small, quiet space of her ready room, Haniel sank into a chair. The false calm she had worn on the bridge melted away, leaving a cold knot of fear in her stomach. She looked at the family image on her desk, her parents in Seoul, her brother with his 2 children. All of them down there on that bright blue marble, oblivious to the razor's edge, the species now balanced upon. She activated her secure terminal. Her authorization codes were long and complex, involving biometrics and memory keys that referenced historical events not found in any public archive. The screen lit up with a simple, text-based prompt, greater than SDS protocol, awaiting authorization, the sovereign defense secret. It was the one directive every Earth Council president and every senior fleet captain was given, with a single solemn warning. Asterisk, use it only when there is no other path. It is not a weapon. It is a confession. Asterisk Haniel input the final sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a single line of text appeared, greater than asterisk asterisk signal sent. Stand by at designated coordinates. Guardian is alerted. Asterisk. Asterisk. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her part was done. Now she had to wait, and she had to sell the performance of a lifetime. 70 hours passed with a torturous slowness. The Concordance fleet sat, motionless and menacing, a static scar on the sky. Haniel made a show of sending frantic, coded diplomatic traffic back toward Earth. She held morale meetings with the crew, speaking of hope and diplomatic solutions she knew did not exist. She could feel the dread building on her ship, a tangible pressure. Admiral Kavosh broke his silence with 2 hours remaining. His face filled the screen once more. Your time dwindles, Captain Lee. Our sensors detect no compliance broadcasts from your homeworld. Your government is silent. This is a mistake. They are considering your generous offer, Admiral, Haniel said, layering her voice with a carefully constructed blend of anxiety and defiance. The fate of a world is not decided lightly. We ask for more time. You have had time, Kavosh stated. You have had centuries since first venturing into the void. You squandered it on independence. The final 2 hours changed nothing. We will begin our advance. Admiral, please, Haniel said, leaning forward, injecting a note of desperation. We must consult our archives, our historical records. There may be precedents, understandings. Kavosh actually made a sound a short, static-like burst that might have been a laugh. Your archives? Your history? You are children playing in the ruins of a house you do not understand. Your history is a short, violent flicker. Ours is an epic. Do not speak to me of your records. Your only record now is the choice before you, subjugation or annihilation. He leaned closer to his own pickup, his large black eyes seeming to fill the screen. We will take your silence as defiance. The pacification fleet moves now. You may watch, Captain, from your little ship as we teach your species its final lesson in humility. The screen went dark again. Almost immediately, Min's voice came over the ship's comm, tense and sharp. Captain to the bridge. Fleet is moving. They're forming an attack spearhead. Estimated time to Earth, 48 hours at cruising attack speed. Haniel walked back onto the bridge. The atmosphere was thick with despair. She took her chair, her back straight. Lieutenant Min, send a tight beam pulse to the following coordinates. Use the echo cipher. She read off a string of numbers that pointed not toward Earth, but out, beyond Pluto, into the deep, dark cold of the Oort cloud. Min's fingers flew. Signal sent, Captain. No response. Coordinates are empty space. Just background radiation and dust. I know, Haniel said quietly, her eyes fixed on the view screen, where the mighty Concordance fleet was beginning its slow, terrible advance into the heart of her home. Just wait. Asterisk on Earth. The news hit like a silent quake. The public knew nothing, of course. The Earth Council maintained a facade of normalcy. News streams talked of trade deals and new ecodomes on Mars. But in the secure bunkers deep beneath Geneva and Seoul, a different kind of energy pulsed through the cold air. Counselor Park Jun sat in a room with no windows. The only light came from the holographic display hovering above the steel table. It showed the Sol system, a tiny, glowing schematic. A cluster of red dots, labeled Concordance Fleet, had just moved past the orbital line of Neptune. They were coming. The estimated time of arrival at Earth was a number that made his stomach tighten. Across from him sat General Oh Jin, head of space defense. The older man's face was a map of grim lines. The Wayfarer S signal was confirmed. Haniel invoked SDS. The deadline has passed. The fleet is advancing. Park Jun ran a hand through his hair. He was a historian by training, a man who had always preferred the quiet dust of archives to the pressurized silence of command centers. Yet here he was, the head of the Historical Security Directorate. His job was not to plan for the future, but to guard a single, immense secret from the past. A secret that was now their only possible future. Operation Echo, Jun said, his voice sounding steadier than he felt. Authorize it. General O did not move. Sir, once we do this, there is no hiding again. The galaxy sees everything. They will know we have been deceiving them. What choice do we have, General? Jun asked, standing up to pace the small room. Let them pacify Earth? Turn our people into servants in their grand design? This was always the plan. A last resort. A final statement. Not for conquest, but for survival. Oh Jin let out a long breath, then nodded. He placed his palm on a scanner on the table. A voice prompt asked for a code. Oh Jin, Sierra Delta 79er. Execute Operation Echo. Full release. The hologram of the solar system zoomed out. Across the system, at 7 specific points, tiny green icons began to flash. They were not near Earth. They were in the forgotten places. The lonely places. Signal received and confirmed at all Guardian vaults. A technician's voice said over the room speaker. Phase 1 initiating. Park Jun sat back down, his eyes glued to the hologram. This was the moment his life's work, and the work of generations before him, led to. He was not a soldier. He was a custodian. And the things he was about to wake up were very, very old. Out in the dark, things began to stir. On Mars, in the deep canyon of Valles Marineris, the ground trembled. Not from a quake, but from ancient machinery buried miles beneath the rust-colored rock. A sheet of cliff face, a kilometer high, silently slid aside. It was not a door made by human hands in any recent century. Its edges were seamless, its movement perfectly smooth and utterly silent. From the profound darkness within, a soft, blue-white light began to glow dot in the asteroid belt, a seemingly ordinary rock, catalogued only as 3,547 Eros, cracked open like an egg. The two halves drifted apart, revealing not more stone, but a core of polished, non-reflective metal. Sensors aboard nearby mining drones, operated by a company on Ceres, suddenly went dead. Their last images were of something immense and geometric, uncoiling from within the asteroid dot near the icy moon of Europa. The frozen ocean surface splintered, not from geological heat, but from a precise, powerful energy signature from below. A spire of black material, etched with patterns that hurt the eyes to follow, rose slowly from the depths, shedding millennia of ice. But the most critical sight was in the Oort cloud, on the tiny, frozen worldlet known as Sedna. Here, the activation signal was received by a single person. Choi Soo was a maintenance engineer. Her job was boring, and she liked it that way. The outpost on Sedna was little more than a science station with a gravity generator and a heater. She monitored long-range telescopes and took ice core samples. She was there because she enjoyed the solitude. When the alarm sounded, it wasn't a station alarm. It was the chime from her personal, military-issue communicator, a device she had been given 2 years ago after a strange series of interviews and tests. She had almost forgotten about it. The message was simple. Echo is live. Proceed to coordinates theta. Confirm identity. Her hands shook as she pulled on her heavy surface suit. She took a small hover sled from the station garage and drove out into the endless, star-speckled night of the Kuiper Belt. The coordinates led her to a plain of methane ice that looked no different from any other. Following the instructions drilled into her, she took a small cylinder from her sled and pushed it into the ice. A low hum vibrated through her boots. The ice in front of her did not melt. Instead, it dissolved. It vanished in a perfect circle, 100 meters wide, revealing a metallic surface beneath. Lines of light, a color she had no name for, traced a complex symbol on the surface. A symbol older than any human writing. A voice spoke in her helmet. It was calm male and spoke perfect Korean. Identity confirmed. Guardian Choi, thank you for your vigilance. The vault opens. The massive metal disc began to descend, creating a ramp into the planetoid itself. Lights flickered on within, revealing a chamber of staggering size. And in the center of it, resting on supports that seemed to be made of solidified light, was a ship. It was not like any human ship Sue had ever seen. It was angular yet organic, made of a material that looked like gray stone, but gleamed like metal. It had no obvious engines, no weapon ports, no viewports. It was covered in more of those strange, swirling symbols. It felt less like a machine and more like a monument. And it hummed with a power that made the air in her suit feel thick. Back on Earth, Park Jun watched as the green icons on his hologram turned from flashing to solid. One by one, they reported status. *** Vault. Alpha Mars. Open. Morningstar is. Active. *** Vault Beta. Asteroid Belt. Open. Iron Willow is. Active. *** Vault Gamma. Europa. Open. Silent River is eyes. Active. *** Vault Theta. Sedna. Open. Eternal Mountain is active. *** 4. More confirmations followed. 7 ships in total. A new communication line opened on the holo display. The face that appeared was not on any official record. It was a man with sharp eyes and hair that was more gray than black. He wore a simple, dark uniform with no insignia. Counselor Park, the man said. His voice was the one that had spoken to Choi Soo. Commander Yundae, June replied, a wave of immense relief washing through him. You are awake. We are, Yundae said. The Concordance moves. We have monitored the Wayfarer's stand. The request for Guardian intervention is valid. He paused, his gaze intense. My family has waited 90 generations for this call. We hoped it would never come. Are you certain? There is no turning back from revelation. Park Jun looked at the red dots on the hologram, inching closer to his home. He thought of Captain Haniel on her tiny ship, standing before the might of empires. He thought of the billions of people going about their day, unaware of the sword hanging over them. "We are certain, Commander," Jun said, his voice firm now. "Show them. Show them the memory we have been keeping. Show them that humanity is not a child in this galaxy. We are a remembering species." Yoon Dae gave a single, slow nod. "Then we will come. Tell your Captain Lei to hold her position, and to watch the sky near Neptune. The Concordance believes they are the teachers of a lesson." A faint, cold smile touched his lips. "They are about to become the students." Lieutenant Kim Min's knuckles were white, where he gripped the edge of his tactical console. On the main view screen, the Concordance fleet was a storm of organized motion. Ships the size of mountains shifted into a spearhead formation, their drives casting a sickly purple glow against the black. The lead Valair dreadnought, a monster of dark metal and spines, began its slow, arrogant cruise inward. It passed the orbit of Neptune as if claiming it. In 48 hours, that spear would reach Earth. Time to intercept? Captain Lee Haniel's voice was calm, a flat pool in the tense air of the bridge. "At our max speed? We could be a minor annoyance in about 30 hours, Min replied, his voice tight. "A fly against a wall of guns. They'd swat us before we got close." Haniel did not take her eyes off the screen. She had sent the signal. June had confirmed it. All that was left was to wait, and to hope that the stories, the whispered protocols, the ancient promises were not just myths. She felt a strange detachment. Her job now was to be the face they saw, calm, waiting, perhaps even defeated. The Wayfarer hung in space, a small and fragile thing before the advancing armada. "Hold position," she ordered. "All non-essential systems to stand by." We wait. On the edge of the Urt cloud, Choi Su watched, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. The ship, the Eternal Mountain, had risen from its vault on Sedna without a sound. It moved not with thrusters, but by seemingly deciding to be in a different place. One moment it was before her, a silent monument. The next, it was 100 kilometers away, hanging against the starfield. Then it was simply gone. Not in a flash of light, but in a way that made her eyes slide off the space where it had been. A deep, resonant hum lingered in her bones for a moment after, then faded into the eternal cold. Near Neptune, the spectacle began. Space behind the Concordance fleet's left flank shimmered. It was a distortion, like heat haze on a desert road, but out here in the vacuum, it was impossible. Admiral Kaifosh, on the bridge of his flagship Judgment's Blade, saw the anomaly on his sensors. His tactical officer, a Cathar with frilled neck scales, hissed in confusion. "Gravity ripple. No source. It is. Localized space-time folding." "A human trick," Kaga stated, but a thread of doubt entered his synthesized voice. This was not a known human capability. Their ships used fusion torches and primitive warp bubbles. Then, Morning Star arrived. It did not translate from warp. It did not emerge from a jump point. The space around it simply changed, solidifying into the vessel's stark, angular reality. It was immense, larger than the Valair dreadnought. Its hull was the color of tarnished moon rock, etched with spirals and lines that seemed to move when looked at directly. It had no visible engines, no glowing ports. It was quiet, dark, and utterly present. A wave of shocked silence seemed to roll through the Concordance fleet's communications band. Scanners lanced over the new arrival. The readings made no sense. The material composition was off the scale, a blend of crystalline and metallic structures unknown to their vast databases. The power signature was a low, steady thrum of gravitational energy, like a sleeping heartbeat. Most confusing of all, the ship's age. Preliminary scans suggested a core structure that predated the concordance itself. By millennia, before Kavosh could give an order, another distortion appeared to his fleet's right. The Iron Willow slid into reality. Its shape was different, longer, more graceful, like a sliver of dark forest. Then another, above them, the Silent River, its surface reflecting the starlight in impossible liquid patterns. One by one, the 7 ancient ships appeared. They did not surround the Concordance fleet aggressively. They simply took up positions near it, a loose, silent circle. Their arrival was a statement made without a single word. On the Wayfarer, the crew stared, their fear momentarily forgotten, replaced by awe. "What are they?" whispered the helmsman, Gia. Haniel felt a chill that was not fear. It was the weight of history. She had studied the myths, the guarded texts. Seeing them was different. They were not sleek or polished. They were old. They carried the silence of deep time in their forms. "They are the answer," she said softly. Her console chimed. An incoming transmission, on a frequency so old and encrypted it was only used in one SDS protocol. She opened it. A man's face appeared on her screen. He had a stern, lined face and eyes that held a profound tiredness. The tiredness of someone who has carried a heavy secret for a very long time. "Captain Lee Haniel," he said. "I am Commander Yoon Dae of the Guardian Vanguard. Your signal was received." "Commander," Haniel said, finding her voice. "The situation is understood," Yoon Dae finished. He looked past her, as if assessing the Concordance fleet on his own screens. "They issued an ultimatum. They believe strength is demonstrated by the noise one makes. We will demonstrate a different kind of strength." On the bridge of the Judgment's Blade, Admiral Kavosh finally found his voice. "Unidentified vessels. This is Admiral Kavosh of the Galactic Concordance. You are interfering in a lawful pacification action. Identify yourselves and your origin, or be considered hostile." There was a long pause. Then Yoon Dae's voice came over the general fleet comms. It was calm, clear, and carried a quiet authority that demanded attention. "Admiral, I am Commander Yoon Dae. These vessels are under human command. You are in human space. You threaten our home. You will advance no further." A disbelieving silence fell over the Concordance command network. Then Kavosh's voice, sharp with anger and confusion, crackled back. "Impossible. Human technology is incapable of this. This is a deception. Who are you truly?" "You demanded we consult our archives," Yoon Dae replied, and for the first time, a hint of something cold entered his tone. "You mocked our history as a short flicker. You were wrong. You see the children playing in the house. You never asked who built the house, or what they built it to keep out." He paused, letting his words hang in the silence of space. "My family name is Yoon. We have stood guard over the Morning Star for 90 generations. We are not its owners. We are its caretakers. A lesson was given to humanity long before your empires rose. We learned it. We have not forgotten. You are about to remember it for us." Kavosh scoffed, a harsh electronic noise. "Ancient relics. Grandstanding. Your primitive stealth technology is impressive, but a ship's age does not determine a battle. Power does. Concordance fleet. Target the largest anomaly. Fire a warning shot across its bow. Show them the present." A single Cathar frigate, sleek and needle-like, moved forward. Its forward plasma cannons glowed a bright, malevolent green. It fired. A lance of superheated energy, capable of melting a city, streaked across the void toward the bow of the Morning Star. It never struck. A few hundred meters from the ancient ship's hull, The plasma bolt unraveled. It slowed, dissipated into a shower of harmless light, and faded away as if absorbed by the fabric of space itself. There was no shield flare, no energy dispersion. It was simply negated. Before the stunned Concordance crews could react, the Iron Willow acted. It did not fire back. From its smooth hull, a beam of soft gray light lanced out, not at the frigate, but at the space around it. The space itself seemed to thicken, to congeal. The frigate's engines died instantly. Its weapons went dark. Its running lights flickered and went out. It hung there, dead in the water, a frozen statue, completely disabled. Not destroyed, silenced. The silent demonstration was more terrifying than any explosion. Yoon-dae's voice returned, quieter now, but it carried to every ship. That was the warning shot, Admiral. The lesson begins now. You will hold your position. You will stand down your weapons. You will listen. The next demonstration will not be so gentle. He switched to a private channel to Hanyul. Captain, hold fast. The show is for them, but the message is for everyone. Watch and learn what we have been hiding. The silence that followed the disabling of the Cathar frigate was not the quiet of space. It was a heavy, pressing silence, thick with shock and fear. On the bridge of the Judgment's Blade, Admiral Kavosh stared at his tactical display. The frigate was a dark, inert symbol on his screen. Its power signatures were flat. Life support was on minimal backup. The ship was a ghost. His weapons officer reported in a hushed, confused tone. No energy discharge registered. No known countermeasure. The target's hull showed no impact. The beam. It altered local physical laws around the frigate. It created a dead zone of null physics. Kavash's mind, trained for conquest and the predictable logic of superior firepower, rebelled. This was not warfare. This was magic. All ships. His synthesized voice boomed across the fleet channel, edged with a new, raw tension. Target those vessels. Full barrage. Eliminate them. The Concordance fleet, a well-oiled machine of destruction, began to move. Dozens of capital ships turned their monstrous guns toward the 7 ancient human vessels. Hundreds of smaller fighters swarmed like angry insects. The space between the two forces shimmered with the power of charging weapons. Captain Lee Hanyul, aboard the Wayfarer, felt her heart hammer against her ribs. Brace for shockwaves and radiation. She ordered, though she knew her small ship was dangerously exposed. But Commander Yoon-dae's voice came through, calm and clear on a secure channel to her alone. Do not brace, Captain. Watch and broadcast this. Broadcast it on every frequency, to the Concordance, to Earth, to every listening post in the quadrant. It is time for the revelation. Before she could respond, the Concordance fleet fired dot. It was a storm of light and death. Plasma cannons, matter disruptors, and singularity projectors unleashed their fury. The combined firepower was enough to shatter a small moon. The volley crossed the distance in seconds. A tidal wave of annihilation, aimed at the Morning Star and the Iron Willow. The ancient ships did not dodge. They did not raise shields in any conventional sense. As the barrage reached them, space itself bent. It was like watching fire hit an invisible sphere of water. The deadly energies slowed, twisted, and spiraled inward. They were not absorbed or deflected. They were unmade. The plasma faded into harmless photons. The disruptor beams dissolved into faint ribbons of light. The singularities winked out of existence as if they had never been. There was no explosion, no violent release of energy. The most powerful offensive barrage in the Concordance's arsenal simply ceased to be, leaving behind only a faint, beautiful aurora of dying light around the human ships. On every bridge, on every screen, the impossible was seen. The Concordance crews froze. their training useless against a physics they did not comprehend. Then the 7 ancient ships acted, not with weapons, but with a synchronized display of control. From each vessel, tendrils of that same soft gray light extended. They were not beams, but more like rivers of liquid space. They reached out, not for the hulls of the warships, but for the space that contained them. Where the light touched, things changed. The Valair dreadnought, the mighty Judgment's blade, shuddered. Every single system on its bridge flickered and died. The viewports, which showed the stars, went completely black. The hum of the engines, the pulse of the power core, the beep of consoles, all sound ceased. They were plunged into a total, absolute silence and darkness. Emergency lights failed to activate. Personal comms were dead. They were floating in a sealed, silent tomb. Across the entire Concordance fleet, the same thing happened. Not a single ship was damaged. Not a single hull was scratched. But every ship was utterly and completely disabled. Drives dead. Weapons dead. Communications dead. Sensors dead. They were marooned in place, prisoners of the void. The swarm of fighters simply hung motionless, like flies caught in amber. Only external comms, strangely, were left functional. A channel was forced open, a broadcast from the Morning Star that poured into every dead ship and across the open. Spectrum. Hyundai's voice filled the silence. Admiral Kavosh, commanders of the Concordance, you are not destroyed. You are paused. This is the first part of the lesson. True strength is not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. My vessels could have reduced your fleet to atoms before you finished your ultimatum. We did not. He paused, letting the reality of their helplessness sink in. You came here believing humanity was a young, foolish child. You came to teach us by breaking our toys and taking our home. You were wrong. We are not the child. We are the keeper of the house the child lives in. And the house was built for a reason. The view on every screen changed. It showed not the starfield, but a recorded scene. It was a data file, ancient beyond measure, stored in the memory cores of the Morning Star. The imagery was grainy. The colors strange. It showed a different sol system. Younger, the planets were in different orbits. And descending upon an ancient green Earth was a shadow. A formless, consuming darkness that blotted out stars. The recording showed the first human ships, the ancestors of the Morning Star, rising to meet it. A war fought not with plasma, but with concepts, with reality itself as a weapon. The cost was horrific. Worlds were unmade. The very fabric of space was scarred. The darkness was defeated, not destroyed, but pushed back into the void between galaxies. Sealed away, the recording ended, returning to the image of Hyundai's grave face. That was the enemy. An enemy of thought, of life itself. We do not even have a name for it anymore. Only the memory of the fight. Our ancestors built these ships for that war. They won, but they learned a terrible truth. Such power corrupts. It turns the user into something cold, something like the enemy they fought. So they hid the ships. They swore to never use them for conquest, only for remembrance, and only for defense if the enemy ever returned, or if a new enemy made the same mistake you have. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. You are not that enemy. You are merely arrogant. So you get a warning, not a war. This is humanity's hidden truth. We carry the memory of a war so old your empires are but a blink in its aftermath. We carry the weapons that ended it, and we carry the wisdom to hide them. On the Wayfarer, Haniel finally understood. The weight, the secrecy, the solemn duty. It wasn't about power. It was about burden. She opened the fleet-wide channel as Hyundai had instructed, her voice clear and strong. Galactic Concordance. People of Earth, You see now what we have guarded. These ships are not our navy. They are our memorial. They are a promise to never forget the cost of ultimate power, and a vow to never become the monsters we fought. The Concordance came for a conquest. Instead, you are offered a choice. Leave. Take this lesson back to your people. Or, she said, and her voice grew quieter, yet somehow carried more force, we will show you the second part of the lesson. The part where these ships stop being a shield and remember how to be a sword. The choice is yours. In the dark, silent bridge of the Judgment's Blade, Admiral Kavosh could only stare at the image of the ancient war, and at the 7 silent monuments holding his mighty fleet in their grasp. His arrogance was gone, burned away by a cold, humbling terror. He was not facing a young species. He was facing the ancient, sleeping guardians of a grave he never knew existed. And they had just asked him, very politely, to go home. The silence stretched for a long time. Inside the dead halls of the Concordance ships, there was only the sound of breathing and the pounding of hearts. Admiral Kavosh sat in his command chair on the Judgment's Blade, surrounded by darkness. The frozen symbols on his dead console were a final mockery of his power. He had come to deliver an ultimatum. Now, he and his entire fleet were held in the palm of a hand so old it made his civilization seem like a newborn. He looked at his communication officer, a young Valer whose hands were shaking. The external com panel was the only thing with a faint, low-power glow. It was a deliberate allowance, a courtesy. The humiliation of that courtesy was sharper than any weapon. On the Wayfarer, Captain Lee Haniel waited. The tension on her bridge had changed. The fear of annihilation was gone, replaced by a strange, breathless anticipation. They had witnessed a miracle. No, not a miracle, a truth. A truth that changed everything. On her screen, a private channel request blinked. It was from Counselor Park Jun on Earth. His face appeared, looking exhausted but calm. Captain. The broadcast was received everywhere. The public is confused, afraid, awestruck. The Council is formulating a statement, but the next move must come from the Concordance. Commander Yoon advises patience. Understood, Haniel said. She watched the main view screen. The 7 ancient ships hung motionless, dark sentinels. The Concordance fleet was a frozen sculpture garden of warships around them. It was the most powerful display of restraint she had ever imagined. Finally, a signal came. It was from the Judgment's Blade. Audio only. Admiral Kavosh's voice was different. The synthetic edge was still there, but the arrogant certainty was stripped away. It was hollow, tired, human command. This is Admiral Kavosh. We receive your message. There was a long pause, as if he were struggling with the words. We request the restoration of basic life support and comes to our vessels. We pose no further threat. We cannot. Yoon Dae's voice answered, not from the Morning Star to the Admiral, but on the general channel for all to hear. Life support and internal communications will be restored to all vessels now. Your weapons and drives will remain inactive. You will be permitted to leave under escort to the edge of the system. This is not a negotiation. As he spoke, the soft gray light surrounding the Concordance ships retracted. On the Judgment's Blade, lights flickered back on at a low level. The air circulators hummed to life. The officers on the bridge gasped, flinching at the sudden return of sound and light. But the engine controls and weapon consoles remained dark and dead. You will depart in your current formation. Yoon Dae continued. The Guardian Vanguard will accompany you to the heliopause. Any deviation will result in your return to a null state. Do you understand? Kavosh's reply was a single, quiet word. Understood. The process was slow and solemn, like a funeral march in reverse. The mighty Concordance fleet, which had advanced with such terrible purpose, now turned clumsily, powered only by maneuvering thrusters. They formed back into their crescent, but now it was a shape of defeat. And flanking them, one ancient human vessel at each point of the formation. The 7 guardians herded them silently back toward the outer dark. Hanuel ordered the Wayfarer to fall in at a distance, a witness. She watched the procession on the screen. Lieutenant Kim Min let out a low whistle. I never thought I'd see something like that. They're just shepherding them out. They're making sure the lesson sticks, Hanuel said quietly. Not just for Kavosh, for everyone watching. The journey to the edge of the system took hours. When the Concordance fleet finally crossed the symbolic boundary of the heliopause, the ancient ships stopped. They held position, blocking the way back in. The message was clear. Go, and do not return like this. A final, brief transmission came from the Judgment's blade. Kavash, his voice formal now, stripped of all pretense. The Galactic Concordance acknowledges the sovereignty of human space. We will deliver your lesson to our governing bodies. There will be no further pacification fleet. The Concordance ships, their drives still dead, activated emergency FTL spools aslow, humiliating jump system meant for crippled vessels. One by one, they flickered and vanished, fleeing into the deeper galaxy. Silence returned to the edge of the Sol system. The 7 ancient ships turned, facing inward. Yoon Dae's face appeared on Hanuel's screen once more. Captain, the immediate threat is past. Our duty is now to return to silence. We will withdraw to our vaults. The memory cores have been shared with your Counselor Park. The full history is now humanity's to know and to guard. Will we see you again? Hanuel asked. Yoon Dae gave a faint, sad smile. I hope not. Our purpose is to be a forgotten secret, a last resort. Today, we were that. Remember us, Captain. Remember why we were hidden. Do not let this knowledge make you arrogant. It is a weight, not a weapon. The communication ended. The 7 ships did not turn or jump. The space around them softened like a mirage. Their solid, massive forms became transparent and faded like ghosts at dawn. In moments, they were gone. Only the undisturbed starfield remained. Days later, on Earth, Counselor Park Jun stood before the United Earth Council and a galaxy watching via Ansible. He was no longer just a historian. He was the explicable of a new, old truth. We are not the youngest species in the galaxy, he said, his voice echoing in the quiet chamber. We are perhaps one of the oldest to remember its childhood trauma. We found weapons of ultimate power, and then we hid them. We chose to grow, to build, to explore as ourselves, not as the keepers of those terrible tools. We hid them not out of fear of others, but out of fear of what we might become. He looked into the cameras, thinking of Choi Su on her icy outpost, of Yoon Dae and his generations of watchfulness, of Captain Hanuel holding her ground. The ships are asleep again. They will remain so. We will not use them to build an empire. We will not sell their secrets. We extend a new hand to the Galactic Concordance and to all species. Not a hand holding a hidden weapon, but a hand open, asking for partnership. We have shown you our deepest secret to prove we want peace. Our strength is not for conquest. It is for remembrance. And our hope is for a shared future. In the months that followed, everything changed, and yet, for humanity, much stayed the same. There were no parades for the ancient ships, no weapons research based on their technology. Instead, there was a new holiday, Remembrance Day, a day to reflect on the burden of power. Captain Lee Hanuel stood on the observation deck of a rebuilt Wayfarer, looking out at the stars. Lieutenant Kim Min joined her, handing her a cup of coffee. Quiet out there, he said. For now, Haniel replied. She took a sip. The galaxy now looked at humanity with a new respect, a cautious awe. They were no longer seen as children. They were the quiet neighbors with a light in their basement, a light older than stars, who had asked politely for the noise to stop. And for the first time in a long time, the silence felt peaceful. It was the silence after a truth had been told. A heavy, honest, and finally shared silence.